and just a couple of things. So before we start, anything else? Okay, Naveen's question has come here. So is there anything else that you guys are specifically looking at? Is there anything that you specifically want? If you need something specific, then you could probably like post that in the questions tab as well. So I'll be able to touch upon those things also. Okay, so I think since we do have a bit more of time, so this is just my biography, my resume. So maybe like if you're wondering who is it that you're talking to, what is it that I know about tuning. If you have any questions, any queries about what makes me the right person to probably answer your questions and things like that, then this is basically me. What I did, what I am doing, where I'm from, and things like that. So I'll just leave it here. It's 6 o'clock, and let's probably start the session with this. So I'm Sajid, and I'm the CEO of RainLab Technologies. RainLab Technologies was Sirius Motorsports earlier. Sirius Motorsports, like we are kind of shifting operations, whatever we had in Sirius, into RainLab right now. And apart from it, I also run Code 6 Chennai and Code 6 Remaps. I run the Chennai franchisee. And I'm also an adjunct faculty and consultant at BITS Pilani. BITS Pilani, where I teach courses on IC engines, I teach calibration. Calibration is basically ECU tuning. I teach control systems, which is about how do you design an ECU. I also teach courses on electric vehicles and Addons. Addons is autonomous driver assist systems. So that's basically my academic qualifications, and my industrial qualification comes from the fact that I've been in the automotive motorsport industry for the last 16 years. We've had quite a lot of race wins, rally wins. I've basically tuned pretty much anything out there, right? Most of the cars I've either remapped it or I've tuned it. I've built cars, I've built bikes, and I've also worked with the industry as well. I've worked with UCAL fuel systems. The work is still ongoing, where we transitioned UCAL fuel systems from carburetors into fuel injection systems. So we built proof of concepts for them. So the proof of concepts were basically the Royal Enfield Classic 350, the 500. We worked on some Bajaj bikes, some TVS. Of course, I can't get into the details of that, but I basically developed. I was in charge of the team developing the ECU, the calibration strategies for these OEMs as well. So that's basically my industry background, and I've told you my academic background as well. And if you ask me what I'm doing today, I'm trying to bridge these two things together. I'm still working in the industry, I'm still working for BITS, and I'm also running RainLab Technologies, which is basically bridging the industry academia curriculum. And how we are doing it is basically by using technology stack. I'm building something which makes it easy for people like you and me to learn about new technologies, state of the art, cutting edge technologies like ECU tuning, right? So that's basically what I'm doing. So I'm going to be talking about these three things. What is ECU tuning? How do you build a career out of it? And how do you learn to tune an ECU or learn to do a remap? This is basically what I'm going to be doing. So before I keep talking nonsense and keep boring you. So these are basically some pictures from our archives. So some cars that we have tuned, some bikes that we have built. This happens to be a Group C RC390. This was sometime in 2012 when we started tuning. That was the time when I mean, if you see this person here, I think this is Sirish, Evo, right? Evo magazine editor. So Sirish had just started rallying at that point of time, and this polo that you see in the center, that was AR Racing, Arjun Rao Racing. We basically were in charge of tuning the ECUs for him. right? So I can probably like post some videos or pictures from our Facebook page as well. So in a nutshell, we were able to make this Polo, the 1600cc Polo, much more faster than the 2000cc Sirius, and it was almost there in the XUV 500 category. So right, that's the kind of performance we were able to extract out of it. And I would still like to believe, because I was involved with the project, that this was one particular car and one particular driver. I wouldn't say it was just me or it was just our team, but it was the whole work which went into this particular car, which kind of made way for Volkswagen to start racing competitively. Because until that point, Volkswagen was not into track racing and things like that, and this was the very first outing they had. And seeing how well the platform was performing, they started moving into motorsports, right? So that's basically some history about me, where I came from, and what kind of makes me qualified to keep giving you advice or to teach you about ECU tuning, right? I didn't start it yesterday, day before. I think this started sometime in 2010, right? That's when I started tuning ECUs and things like that. So some of the achievements that we've had so far. So our students, what they've been able to do, they've either been able to get into the aftermarket segment, where they very successfully run tuning garages, remap franchisees, or they've been able to go and join OEMs, right? OEMs in the sense like they've joined automotive companies, and they've been working with testing, validation, or calibration department as well. So this is basically what I have been able to achieve teaching ECU tuning for the last, I don't know, maybe 5 6 years, right? So though I've been working in the field for more than like 15 16 years, I've started teaching this only for the last 5 years. And I've taught these courses, the exact ECU tuning course, which you are here to learn from me. I've taught the same course at ECU manufacturers like Continental, Robert Bosch. I've taught them to vehicle manufacturers like Tata Motors, Cummins, some people from Fiat Chrysler as well, right? So there's quite a lot of thought process and work and things which have gone into it to kind of bring this course to where it is right now. So what I mean to tell you is, this is not something which we have quickly put together and we're just presenting it to you. This is something which we've been talking about, we've been kind of like doing for the last 15 years, and we've been teaching it professionally for the last 5 years, and not just to students or graduates like you. It's also been taught to professionals from these companies as well, right? So before we go there, right, let me just quickly ask you guys a question. How many of you think that ECU tuning is all about making a car go faster? If you think that is the case, do type yes or do type no in the chat box, just so that I understand. How many of you think that ECU tuning, when you learn ECU tuning, it is just gonna help you, make the car go faster, or it's just gonna like help you build a race car or something like that? Quite a lot of no's. Maybe you caught on to it, right? Yes, that was a trick question, right? So why do I say that ECU tuning is not just about that, right? Of course, it makes your car go faster, but why do I say that? What is this car on the screen? It's the Mercedes-Benz S-Class, right? The pinnacle of automotive technology. So can someone tell me, how would you classify this car as, right? If I were to ask you this question, is this a mechanical device? Like, so cars when they came out in 1800s, a single mechanic technician could kind of build it, right? Which is why we started calling people who work on cars as mechanics, right? So it was a mechanical system. But just take a look at the car on the screen and tell me, do you still believe that this car is a mechanical device anymore? Not just the S class, right? Leave out the S class. Let's take the cheapest car in the Indian market, which is what the Suzuki Espresso or the Renault Kwid. Let's take the Renault Kwid, right? Espresso, okay, leave it out. Let's take the Renault Kwid. How many of you think that the Renault Kwid is basically a mechanical device? Do you really think it is a mechanical device? I would say it stopped being a mechanical device sometime in 2004, right? So the moment that I think the Daewoo Matiz and the Hyundai Santro, they were the first cars to come with MPFIs. So once they started coming in, our cars stopped being a mechanical device. So, what does it mean for you? The car is now not just a mechanical device, it is a complex system which has got electrical components in it, it's got electronic components in it, it has got some software controlling both electrical and electronics, and these together controlling some mechanical systems, right? So, it is an immensely complex mechatronic system. That is what it is right now, right? So whether you believe it or not, right, whether you accept it or not, our cars are no longer mechanical systems. Our cars are done being mechanical systems. They are now more of a mechatronic systems. So if this is a mechatronic system, if this is, actually as complex as what we say it is, what does it take to modify these cars, right? So now, whenever we look at the name of the course, right, ECU Tuning and Remaps, I've just put it that way, right? And what is my company name? I say it is Sirius Motorsports. Of course, it's Rainlab Technologies. Not forget about it, but it was always Sirius Motorsports, and quite a lot of you know me as from being Sirius Motorsports rather than Rainlab Technologies as well, right? So if I say that. I'm just someone who modifies these cars, right? Most of them think, so what? You're just a mechanic, right? This is the kind of like thought process that we get from a layman, a normal person. But let me ask you this question: do you really understand what it takes to modify these cars, right? I'm not talking about your olden day Esteems or your Zens or something like that. I'm talking about a modern day car, an automobile which is there in the market right now, because that's what we are seeing every day. You're buying a Polo, you're tuning a Polo, or you're buying a Swift, a 2021 Swift, and you're modifying it. Or the lucky ones among you, you might be buying some Audis or BMWs and you might be modifying it. Your customers might have a Porsche, as it is here in this picture. So, what does it take to modify these cars? If you ask me, there are a few steps involved in it. So the first step before I can actually think of modifying the car is I need to understand how this basically works, right? That is the first step. So if you ask me what is a fuel injector, if I don't know what a fuel injector is, how do I put more fuel and then produce more power? I don't know that, right? So I need to understand how this basically works. This means that how the whole car works, right? Which means anything which is related to the powertrain, I need to know how that basically works. And once it is clear to me, once I understand how they work, I'll have to understand what it takes for me to modify them. I can't just simply go and tell a fuel injector to inject more fuel. It's not going to happen. I need to understand how do I, modify it. How do I make it supply more fuel? How do I make it supply more spark? How do I make it supply more boost? I need to understand that part of things. This is not like the olden day where I take the carburetor out, I take the jet, I put a needle file into it, I make the hole bigger, I put it back, I modified the car. No, we are beyond that point. We need to understand what it takes to modify these cars, right? It goes a lot more than that. Once I've done it, I'll have to learn how to modify it, right? That is basically the process which is involved in modifying it. So now when I say that I'm going to be teaching you how to do tuning and remaps, which is basically modifying, do you really think I can just simply tell you, okay, this is how it is, open this, do a plus 5%, plus 10%, and do you think you really are going to understand how it basically works? I really don't think so, right? I really don't think so, and that's not the way I teach as well. So now, when you ask me what is my tuning course, right? When you ask me what is it that you would learn in the tuning course, then this question should answer you. So what I will end up teaching you is this: if I'm going to teach you how to modify, then I basically start from here and go, right? So which means I can technically call this course as calibration, right? So calibration is what they use in the automotive industries. I can say this course is also called as calibration of control systems, right? And to be more specific, I can say calibration of control systems specific to IC engines, which is internal combustion engines. I can further say this is gasoline and diesel, and probably I can say like I also like this also deals with other powertrain like your gearboxes or something like that, right? So now imagine if I put an advertisement on Facebook saying, "Hey, why don't you join my course on calibration of control systems?" How many of you think you guys are going to join that course, right? So basically, what we have done is we have tried to keep things simple for you, because I always believe that you will have to like kind of keep things simple so that people understand what is going on, and once that is there, right, you would find things very easy to take it forward from there, right? So guys who have joined in late, if you guys could please answer the poll which is on your screen, like which is basically which background you are from, right? That would kind of help us understand these things. Now before we move on, right, let me just put up another poll for you. So this is just for me to understand what is basically your learning outcome. So I'm going to teach you how to basically tune ECUs, right? And you can basically take this and you can start a career, you can go work somewhere, or you can start your own business, or you just have this curiosity and you basically want to learn for that. So it could be any of these reasons. So just for me to understand what is it that you are here to learn for. Automotive designer, great, Ayush. That's very interesting. Hope to hear more from you, right? Of course, being a powertrain designer, I think everything starts and you build cars around powertrain. So yes, that is a very valid objective that you have over there. Great, right? So now that this makes it clear, right? So we have this complex systems, and in order to modify that, we'll have to work, and this is basically what we are going to do. So now let me quickly move ahead and start talking about what is it that I'm going to be teaching you. Now there are two different let's say parts to this course. So the first part is about ECU tuning, right? So ECU tuning is basically where we use a standalone ECU. A standalone ECU is basically something which has been made by manufacturers for the automotive aftermarket. This is not something which manufacturers use inside their original equipments. They don't use it on cars which goes into the market. This is basically ECUs which are used for motorsports or high performance application. So the process of calibrating this is typically called as your tuning, whereas calibrating an original ECU from Bosch or Continental is called as remap. So effectively, we are just teaching you how you can basically calibrate these systems. That's what we are here to teach you. Now, the primary application for these ECUs would be your naturally aspirated or turbocharged petrol MPFI engines, right? So these ECUs cannot be used on carburetors. You will have to convert it into fuel injection. They cannot be used on diesels. You do have diesel ECUs, but they are extremely expensive and not very common. So most probably you will be using it to tune your race bikes, or you are building a race car or something like that. It would be useful for that, right? Great. Okay. Super. Super. Nice hearing that from you guys. Nice hearing that from you guys, right? So this is basically like what you use a ECU for. So a standalone ECU is basically going to be used for tuning these kind of bikes. Now again, a quick question to keep you guys interested: how much do you think a typical ECU, a standalone ECU in the market today cost? So suppose this is for me to pitch a value for you guys. So if you want to learn how to tune an ECU, you need to have an ECU with you. How much do you think the ECU would cost, right? So most of the cheapest ECU, in fact, you can purchase is today around I think around 55 to 60,000 rupees, right? That's the race dynamics, which is now available at 55 to 60,000 rupees. You get a Haltech Platinum Sport or something, it's going to be somewhere between 1 to 1.25 lakhs, including customs duty. You get something from Motec or Bosch Motorsports, it's all going to be 3.5 lakh rupees plus. So the bottom line is basically you need to have access to at least 50,000 rupees of cash and then a car to basically put this ECU in a car and learn how to tune, right? So this is probably why quite a lot of people were never successful in teaching people how to tune their car, right? Because how do you expect me to give you an ECU which is going to cost 50,000 rupees, and maybe you guys are from different parts of the India? How do I enable this for you, right? It's going to be really difficult for me to do that, right? So which is basically, I'll come back to it. I'll explain what we do to negate that. But this is basically the price range at which the ECUs are present. But as a part of the course, I'll also be, post completion of the course, I'll tell you how you can build an ECU for yourself for around 12,000 rupees, right? So all it will take you to build an ECU yourself is around 12,000 rupees. You can import a fully built unit for maybe around 15 to 18,000 rupees, right? So there are some open source ECUs which you can use. So this is another thing which comes as a part of it. So now the first part of what we teach is all about ECU tuning, which is all about standalone ECUs. So some standalone ECUs, this is what you see. And I've also told you how expensive typical ones are. But as a part of the course, I'll tell you how you can build one yourself for almost peanuts. And I'll also tell you how you can learn to tune ECUs without actually having an ECU as well. Now, the second part of the course deals with OEM ECUs. OEM stands for Original Equipment Manufacturers, right? So I already said when we do a remap, it means that I'm calibrating an original ECU, right? So that's basically what I'm basically doing. So I'm taking an original ECU and I'm calibrating it. So, and this, when we talk about, you can have applications for pure IC engines, either petrol or diesel. It can be electrified powertrains, which could be pure electric or hybrid electric as well, right? So probably I think Naveen, your question comes here, with cars getting more of a battery system, how is this field relevant? This field will still be relevant because irrespective of whatever powertrain that you use, right? The powertrain control remains the same. The powertrain control strategies remains the same, which means whatever you learn as a part of this course, maybe bits and pieces change here and there. Instead of controlling a petrol engine, you will control an electric motor, or you will control a petrol plus an electric motor. So that changes, but the whole process of basically understanding how this works, that doesn't change at all, right? So I hope I've answered your question, Naveen. ECUs will remain. ECUs still are there in all your hybrid and electric vehicles. Bosch is developing ECUs for hybrid and electric vehicles, which means whatever control strategies you learn, whatever you start working on, you will need the same skill sets to basically work on those cars as well. You might not be remapping them. You might be working for Bosch at that point of time, or you might actually join Tata Motors or Cummins or someone like that, because basically they're looking at people who understand how the ECU works and things like that, right? So Naveen, this is for you. Hope I've answered your question. So for those of you who came in late, Naveen had asked a question regarding how does this remain relevant now that electric vehicles are coming into the equation. So the answer is this: the ECUs will still control the vehicles no matter what powertrain it is, right? So that's how this remains relevant. So whenever you take an OEM ECU, right, there is a reason why it takes a company the size of Bosch to build an ECU. So that's because they have extremely complicated control strategies. There's quite a lot of complexities involved in it, but you will not be like asked to completely do it from scratch, right? Whenever you do a remap, you're not going to like break your head so much as what you do it with your standalone ECUs. You have a starting point, and I will be able to teach you how to start from there and just remap it, right? So you're not mapping it, you're not doing it from scratch, you're just remapping it. So whatever is there, you're just making some changes to it. So that is what we are going to be teaching you in part 2 of the course, which is going to be all about remaps. And we primarily focus on the diesel vehicles here. And for the standalone ECUs, we focus on petrol vehicles. As a part of this course, we do not cover hybrid and electric applications. That's basically because the domain knowledge you need to start understanding hybrid and electric vehicles is huge. Since we don't have sufficient time along with this course to teach it, we have kind of kept it separate. But if you are interested in learning about hybrids or pure electric vehicles, then there are other programs that we have for this particular thing, right? So why is it hard and expensive for diesel engine ECUs? That's basically because of all the emission norms, not just diesel engines. Even for the petrol engines, it's hard because there is a lot of emission norms, there's a lot of requirements. So it is not like you can just take an ECU, put something in it, and sell in the market. Your ECU has to make sure your car runs without problems for about 5 lakh kilometers. It has to make sure that even if one sensor is faulty, the vehicle still continues to work. It has to make sure that you can buy a car, start from Kanyakumari and drive it all the way to Kargil, and the vehicle would still run fine without any hiccups. How many people do you see doing K2K expeditions on their cars? Leave out cars, take bikes. How many people do K2Ks? How many people take a KTM Duke, and how many people go to like do the Leh Ladakh trips and all, right? So it's because the original equipment ECUs, they kind of have to take a lot of factors into account. They kind of become a little hard. So yes, it is hard, it is expensive, but it is not going to be that difficult for you, right? I mean, when you learn it in the right way, it's obviously going to be a little more easier than that. So don't be put off by the fact that it is extremely hard. It is extremely hard for a layman, for a nobody. But when you go through the process, when we are teaching you how to do it, you would actually be able to understand that it is actually like just a very logical jump from tuning. Because you see, like what we do is, we don't start you with remaps, we start you with tuning, we start you with petrol. So we start you with some basics, we build up those things. So the first 2 weeks, once you're done with ECU tuning, you're already not a beginner, you're already halfway to becoming an expert ECU tuning guy. So halfway there, almost at 50%, then we put you into diesels and we start teaching you these things, right? So then it becomes easy for you to understand, which is why I said, the way the course has been laid out, it has taken me 4 years to kind of come to this logical structure. And trust me, this structure does work, right? I've done it for all the OEMs, and I know that this works. And I know that you will not have problem learning even the most complex strategies for diesel engines, right? So Shefin, I hope that answered your question. How many ECUs are there in a single normal car? Normal cars, one. Sports cars, high-end cars, they'll have two, right? But most normal cars will only be one. Vishal, your question. Let me just complete this, and I'll get back to that. Right? I'll just get back to your question in a while. So now, how do you do remaps? Right. So the difference between tuning and remaps is that tuning, you have direct access to the ECU. You take a cable, directly plug it into the ECU, it will start reading and writing. Right. Whereas with your this thing, your remap. They do not allow you direct access, right? There is no direct access between your laptop and your ECU. So what you do is, you basically need someone to go hack into the ECU, right? You or me, we are not like hackers. We are not that technically competent to go hack into an ECU. So what we do is, we use a tool, right? So the tools like KTAG, KES, and all these things, we use a tool which basically allows us to hack into the system, right? So we hack into the system. All we do is just connect our laptop to the KTAG or the hacking tool, whatever it is that we do. We don't use the word hacking tool. Let's use the term remap tools, right? So we use the word remaps here. Let's kind of keep it non-controversial. So we use a remap tool. The remap tool will basically hack into an ECU, read the files, and give it to us. So once it comes to us, then we basically edit. Or if you don't want to edit, you get an edited file from someone and you write it back to it. So this is basically how remap is different from your tuning. And since you need to also like hack into it, right? So that is why like these remap tools are actually a little bit more expensive. Pfizer KTAG is a hacking tool. It's a remapping tool. You need this tool to read ECUs, right? I said ECUs do not allow you to directly connect using a computer. So you need to connect to a tool which will basically hack into the ECU, and then it will kind of like get you the files out from it. This is like you've seen a lot of movies. Whenever there is a keypad, these guys will go, they'll put a device on it, they'll connect some wires, and then that will tell you what the secret code is, right? So if you thought that was just happening in movies, then that's actually what happens with this KTAG and KES and those tools. So the moment you connect it to the ECU, it figures out what is the secret password. It logs into the ECU, it takes the file, and it gives it to you. That's basically what happens. It's engine control or electronics control unit. It's interchangeable, Chittaranjan. You could either use engine control unit or an electronic control unit. Okay, so guys, I mean, if you have questions, please, I mean, if it's a simple question, please do post it in the chat. If it needs me to maybe, go back and explain in a couple of minutes or something, post it in the questions. I'll come back to it. I'm having a look at your questions, Shrikant, Venkatesh. I'm looking at it. I'll come back to it and I'll answer every one of your questions individually, right? So this is basically what we do with remaps, right? So you need to have tools from a company like Alien Tech, CMD, or AutoTuner. These are manufacturers of tools. Alien Tech makes two types of tools. One is KTAG, one is KES, right? So KTAG is used for certain type of ECUs. KES is used for certain others. CMD is another Swiss-based manufacturer. So it's just basically different manufacturers giving you different tools to enable you to hack into ECUs, right? So that's all there is about it. Now, is that all that is required? I would say no, right? If you want to be a professional in this, so for those of you who are wanting to do it professionally, you need to basically pick up some more tools as well. So, what are these tools? So, the tools you would basically be needing is something like this. You would need to have a wideband oxygen sensor, right? So, this is one of the predominant tools you need if you are doing tuning. If you're doing remaps, then you don't necessarily have to have this, but it is good to have, right? And you need to have a knock monitor. This is very important for petrol cars and petrol bikes. So if you're doing petrol cars, petrol bikes, you need to have a knock monitor, and you need to have a testing facility, right? A dyno facility, at least access to a dyno facility. If you don't have your own dyno, you should be able to go somewhere, rent out dyno for 1 hour, 2 hour, and basically test your vehicles out here. Of course, you need to have a laptop and a remap tool, and apart from it, you need to have some knowledge as well. So now I'm telling you that I'm going to be teaching you how to do tuning and remap. Now, the question you should be asking me is, if these are the tools that is required, how in the world are you going to be able to teach this to me? Because I believe most of you have only a laptop, right? You don't have any of these tools with you, right? And just to give you an idea about how much this cost, a wideband oxygen sensor would cost you about 35,000 rupees. A knock monitor like what you see here, this would be about some $1,500, which means about 75,000 rupees. A dyno facility is going to cost you 2,000 rupees per hour at the minimum. But to use in a dyno facility, you need to have a bike or a car. I can't tell you how much that's going to cost, right? You need to have an ECU. You know that ECU is going to start at 50,000 rupee plus, and not to mention your petrol expenses, right? So all in all, when I started learning how to tune sometime in 2007, 2008, I mean, it used to be like, I saved money, we got an ECU, fixed it on a car, and every time I had $1,000 extra, I'll put fuel for that. I'll take it onto the bypass road, drive the car, tune the ECU, understand what was going wrong. We didn't have access to dynos in those point of time. Then some 1.5 years later, someone put up a dyno in Coimbatore. So immediately we went there. We started running the cars on the dyno. We started checking what is it that this car is making, right? Then we found out that we are making only 95 bhp at the wheels. I mean, Esteem was supposed to produce 85, but 85 was not at the wheels. I mean, it was at the crank. So when we tested on a dyno, we found after all the tuning, we could only produce 95 bhp. Then we thought, okay, let's go, let's put some turbo, blah, blah, blah. Spent quite a lot of money, and finally we figured out we could only make 120 horsepower, right? So there was a lot of learning, there was a lot of money, there's a lot of time. And I would say my whole learning journey took me about 2.5 years. And it would have costed me nothing less than 7.5, 8 lakh rupees. That is how I learned to tune. Because trust me, there is no course which teaches you how to tune. I mean, in India, absolutely nothing. I teach courses at BITS, I teach courses at IIT. I've seen there is absolutely no course which teaches you how to do it. So I had to learn it on my own, and now I'm trying to teach this to you. So now, without all these things, right, how in the world do you think I would be able to teach you? Do you really think it would be worth teaching you like how to tune without having ECUs or something? I believe it will not, right? So, which is why what we did is we started like coming up with some kind of a arrangement for this, right? So before I get into it, I'll just talk a little about the careers, right? So I just want to retain this track for, I mean, after I finish this slide. So what are the kind of careers that you could have? So like I said, there are two types of careers you could choose. One is it will help you in the aftermarket. So if you want to set up your own performance shop, or if you want to tune for a motorsport company, or if you want to do ECU repairs, or you want to do diagnostics or something like that, this is something which will definitely help you in that. Or alternately, you can directly apply for engine calibration and engine testing, emissions testing jobs. You can use this as a basis, and you can build up more skill sets on model based development, verification, and validation, and hopefully get into the EV or HEV domain, right? So if you are planning to get into EV or HEV domain, then this ECUs, whatever you learn about it, calibration, mechatronics, your sensors and actuators and control strategies, these are basically the basis for it, right? So now let me go and explain how is it that we are able to teach you, right? So I said, unless you have access to a car, unless you have Fahad, KTAG is a tool plus a software to run the tool. I'll come back and explain that in detail for you, right? Right. So what we did is we built an application called as a virtual dyno, right? So this is an in-house built application. This took us about 2 years to kind of complete, and we launched this commercially in March 2020. Till date, this is a one of its kind application, which is basically a digital twin of a bike and a dyno, right? So this bike that I showed you, the KTM RC 390, a Group C bike, we have created a digital twin of that. We have created a digital twin of our race dynamics dyno. We have created a digital twin of a standalone ECU, right? And we've also added an emission testing equipment into it, and we are giving it as a web-based access to you, right? So if you really can't understand that, then I would just ask you to go back here, right? And think of all the tools that you needed to basically learn how to tune a wideband sensor, a knock monitor, a dyno facility, an ECU, a bike, and then the petrol to test it. How much do you think it's going to cost? I would tell you it cost us nothing less than 7,500 to 8,000 rupees per hour whenever we run our test. Now you are going to have access for 3 months, right? So 3 months into 24 hours, you're going to have access to a dyno facility, a car, not a car, a bike, an ECU. And of course, all of this is going to be virtual, but still, just imagine the amount of time that you could save, the amount of money that you could save. You go with, let's say, a basic rate of 2,000 rupee an hour, and suppose you spend 20 hours learning how to tune. That's that's straight away like you have got some 40,000-50,000 rupees savings over there. Not to mention the petrol, not to mention that you don't have to buy any of these tools and equipments. So basically what we offer for you is a very safe way to learn tuning, right? You learn tuning, you practice everything on our system. You cannot break our engine. It is a digital twin, it doesn't break. You try all of these things, and once you know that you are pretty good at it, then you go pay your hard earned money and you get your tools and you start tuning your car, or you start getting into business, right? Because we don't want you to do the mistakes I did. We don't want you to break engines. We don't want you to spend money unnecessarily not knowing which tool to purchase and things like that, right? So many of you might also have this question that, do I really have to purchase this tool? Do I have to purchase that tool? One thing I tell all of you is, please wait until you complete the course, right? Most of your doubts will get answered. And after you complete the course, you anyways have a hands-on module where you can come, be at our garage in Chennai for 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, and you can talk to us. You can use all our tools. We have some 4 different remap tools. We'll have some cars coming in on and off, so you can test out all those things. You can get practical experience. You can sit with me personally, talk to me for half a day even, and then you can decide what tool you want to purchase, how you want to start your business, right? So that's basically what we do. So the first thing is we teach you the petrol tuning and all those things. We use a tool called as a virtual dyno. And once you are done with it, the second part of the course, we teach you about diesel engines. We teach you about what control strategies, or I said about complexities, right? So that's called control strategies, what control strategies are used. And not only that, we also have modules on how you can do some performance modifications. How do you design an exhaust? How do you design an intake? How do you put an aftermarket turbocharger, right? We do all of those things as well, right? Of course, we have online as well as offline module. Even with the online module, you can come down for offline experience free of cost, right? So there is no cost for it. You can come for 2 to 3 days. You can come down to Chennai and get an online offline experience. For those of you wanting to do purely offline, we have access for that as well. And most importantly, once you do complete your course, we will handle you, we will support you, to set up your business. You want our help, you want to set up a franchisee, pretty much anything that is there, we will be able to offer you support on that as well, right? So now I explain all these different things to you. So before we move on, I just want you to answer a very simple question. How many of you still think that you need to have an engineering degree to do tuning, right? Because, like from my experience, none of our current engineering degrees actually teach you what an ECU is or how to tune an ECU, right? So which means, my sincere opinion is that you don't really need an engineering degree to basically tune ECUs, right? You just need to kind of like understand what things are, and even if you're not from an engineering background, you would still be able to do these things, right? Saran Kumar, can you please post this question in the questions tab? I'll just get back to you as soon as the presentation is over. There is a questions tab, so if you could post it there, I'll just come back. I'll not forget to answer your question, right? Just put it there. I'll come back and I'll answer it for you. Great. So now what I want you guys to do is, if in case, I mean, of course, you are interested in this course of ours, right? What you can do is you can just let us know your interest, and we'll have Raj call you, and we can kind of reserve the spot for you. And of course, for the next 2 days, I think Raj will also be able to give you, if you are confirming and if you're making the payment, advance payment in the next 2 days, Raj will also be able to give you a very good offer for you, a good discount for you, if in case you're confirming within the next 2 days. So most of you would have been on our website, you would have seen what the prices are. So now this course is available in two different flavors. One is the pure online, and other one is the pure offline, right? So offline is where you come to our office and you sit in our office and learn, right? So you get a lot more of practical experience, whereas an online is something where you get to come down to our garage for 3 to 4 days at any time of your choosing. It is not that you'll have to come immediately after completing the course. You can come after 2 months, you can come after 3 months, you can come the next week, you can do it whichever way you want, right? So there are two flavors that we offer in this. The online course is going to be available for you for 17,000 rupees, and the offline course is available for you for 35,000 rupees, right? For those of you who want some diagnostics training for this as well, then there are other modules which you can choose as add-ons also. So here's what I want you to do if in case you are interested in joining our course, right? You could just answer this poll, and I'll have my team get back in touch with you and contact you, right? So even if you're not interested at this point, do let us know. We can always like get back to you at a later point of time. Or, right, if you're not interested because you think the fees is much higher or something like that, please don't worry about it. We can offer you some installments, and we can offer you some deferred payment options as well, right? So this is basically for you to understand what is it that we offer and how is it that you can basically take this forward, right? Super. So while you answer it, please go ahead and answer it so I can have Raj get back to you on it. Now I think it's time for me to go and start answering your questions, right? So the first question, from Shrikant, what is the best India-specific tool, OBD and direct ECU? So, Shrikant, if it is from a remap perspective, I would say there is no single tool that would be suitable. So, we've been using KTAG, KES, and CMD both OBD and bench. And recently, like we are thinking if we have to get probably like like a bitbox or maybe a B flash as well. So no single tool will be able to help you out with it, right? So Shirfin, like the online course is basically like it is something which will give you access for 3 months, right? You will be able to complete all the modules in about 20 to 25 days, but you can take up to 3 months to complete it. Okay, so guys, I cannot switch on your mics. I don't have that permission. So if you want to talk anything, please see if you can put it in the questions tab or in the chat box. I'll try to answer that. Okay. So Shrikant, the answer is there is no single tool. We usually depend on multiple tools. But if you want a single tool, then I think right now you could probably invest in Auto Tuner. Is TCU tuning related to ECU tuning? Yes, it is, Prajwal. TCU is for transmissions and ECU is for engine control unit. Naveen, I've answered this question for you. Battery cards evolving. We still have ECUs controlling it. So what we learn is the fundamentals of how this ECU works. So whether it is batteries or whether it is hybrid electric, we will still have a lot of relevance in this field. What is the difference between piggyback ECUs and OEMs? See, piggyback is something which needs an original ECU to work and it sits on top of it and it just alters the signals. That is basically what we call as a piggyback ECU. Different tools for different brands of cars. Usually one tool will cover multiple brands, right? So this, I think you're talking about it from Remaps. If you're talking about from scan tools, then yes, there are different tools which only do that particular cars. Like say, for example, a VCDS will work only with the WAG group cars, but there are tools like Launch and G-Scan which can work with multiple brands as well, right? So if you're talking about Remaps, one tool can work with multiple brands. If you're talking about scan tools, then yes, there are tools which can work with multiple brands as well. Can a single tool like KTAG be used for multiple brands? Yes, Shrikant, you can use for multiple cars, but it will not cover all the cars that are in the market. For some cars, you have to use KISS. For some, you'll have to use KTAG, which is why, like with other manufacturers like CMD or Auto Tuner, you don't have two different tools. You just have one tool into which both these functionalities are built in, right? What is the difference between BHP, wheel horsepower, and horsepower? It is just that where you measure it. So wheel horsepower is where you measure it at the wheels. BHP typically and HP typically refer to the crank horsepower, measured at the crank. Can we correct speedometer on cars with upsize wheels? I don't think that's possible, right? I don't think that's possible. I've not seen a tool which can basically do that. Um, you can correct odometer readings, but the interpretation and things, I don't think we have any tools give you access to that. Basically, because not many people want it, so no one has basically built that functionality here. Can a petrol engine be remapped as effectively as a standalone ECU with respect to performance, and can a turbo be added with remapping? See, petrol engines can be, yes, with respect to remaps, I would say, depending on the type of application, remaps can be as effective, right? As effective as a standalone ECU, but still, like standalone would be much better for certain cases because there will be no complications arising from the stock ECU. But if you want the ABS to function, if you want a whole lot of other functions, then it's better to go with a remap. Now, coming to remap and turbocharging, it is not possible in India. There are people in the UK like CTC Performance who have done a remap on a M16 Swift with a turbo, basically the SX4 engine. But in India, no one has done it. Do we need any programming language to learn? Absolutely not. You don't have to. You just need to know how to use Excel sheet. Excel sheet also is optional, but some Excel sheet, I'll teach you how to do it also. That's it. Nothing else. No programming language. Nothing is needed. Do you need a separate tool for TCU tuning? No. Most of the tools will be able to read your TCU as well. So you can use the same tool for reading TCU also. Number of days for offline to complete the course. So offline, it would take you somewhere between 20 days to 1 month, right? So 20 working days. So it will take you 1 month. Actual calendar date will be 1 month or 4 weeks to complete the course. How multiple remaps work? Can a multiple maps be run on a GTTSA 1.2? Multiple maps is basically like it's more like I would say it is more like not multiple maps, but it is like multiple power modes or something like that. So GTTSA, nope, I don't think anyone has developed it for it. But I sincerely believe multiple modes, drive modes, it's basically like something it is needed only if your car is extremely powerful and you need to switch between an eco and a power mode. Right, on a GTTSA, we really don't have um, too much of leeway, too much of things to do on it. So I basically don't think anyone would develop it for a GTTSA 1.2. Maybe for a VRS 230 or 245, yes, because there is so much of power and torque gains you can have. So maybe it works on that. But no one has done it for the GTTSA as far as I know. How do OEMs see this field and what is the career potential? I'm willing to learn things passionately, but I need something certain. Fourth year mechanical student. Okay, Jatin, I had a very interesting talk, right? I had a very interesting talk with a, tier one supplier. So this tier one supplier wanted to check with me if I could take some freshers, train them in model based development, and help them place these guys at different companies, or rather he will place them at different companies. He wanted me to check if I can support him with some of my students, right? So what he said is he very badly needs people with some kind of 1D modeling experience and specific to infotainment systems, your car audio systems, infotainment systems, and ADAS, which is advanced driver assist systems. And the problem why this actually exists is that these things, what the OEMs are currently working on, right? You do a little research on it. Whatever it is that the OEMs are working on, there is absolutely no course in India which caters to them, right? Absolutely no course which caters to them. So the only way a manufacturer in India can recruit someone is if this person has gone to the US or UK or Germany, done a master's there, then he would more or less be like qualified for it. They will take them, do some small training, and put them in. So now put it in that perspective. OEMs have huge requirements. Almost 30, 40, 50% of the positions go unfilled because they don't find people. You learn it the right way, you learn the right skill sets, it's got a lot of scope, right? That's something I can 100% say. It's got a lot of scope, but don't take my word for it. Get on to Naukri or something. Just search for MATLAB and search for automotive. See how many jobs comes up, right? So that's basically how much people need. That's basically the demand that is there in the market. Naveen, is it possible to increase mileage as well as performance? Yes, it is possible. If you are from an engineering background, it is possible because of something called as brake specific fuel consumption, right? So by increasing performance, you will also be able to increase your mileage as well. Ali Hussein, would the tuning for an electric vehicle be separate? See, it is more or less similar. Of course, the domain is different, so you will have to learn the domain knowledge, but the process would more or less be similar, right? Process would be more or less similar. Of course, I can't say they are exactly the same, but they are similar. You will have to learn something extra that will definitely be there, but it's not like you learn English and then you learn German. It is not going to be that difficult, that different. They'll be very similar. Is it safe to tune an SOHC NA engine? Of course it is. That's what we've been doing for ages before Skoda decided to come with their Octavia 1.8 VRS, right? So we were tuning 1.5 and 1.3 NA engines. We were basically running with it, right? What is the mechanism behind cracks and pops? It's basically putting extra fuel into the car during engine overrun, which is basically very harmful for the engine. So cracks and pops, not something which I would want to do. Duration for offline course, Kiran, it is a minimum of 4 weeks, right? Usually people take between 4 to 5 weeks to complete it. What are the stages, especially in an example stage 2 plus? So stages is just simply some marketing speak. Stage 1 is just a map. Stage 1 plus, we give you a map, slightly more power, and we tell you you'll also have to buy a filter to go with it. Stage two, we tell you you'll have to purchase an exhaust. So we basically want to get more money out of you. So we basically package it like that, right? So it's basically increasing power levels along with increasing modifications, hardware modifications that you need to do. Of course, no remap company would accept that, but I'm basically just joking about it. But yes, stages is all about how much power do you offer. Do the map works on its own, or do you need some extra hardware modifications for it to work? That's basically the difference. Will remapping affect our strict emission standards? Of course, yes. Of course, yes. 100%. 100%. It will affect. Your car will no longer pass emissions, which is why the Volkswagen Dieselgate scandal, which came in, that's basically what happened, right? But this is not something. I mean, there's something called as a right to modify, which is there in the US. So it is strictly not illegal, but remapping will affect emission standards. The add-ons for the course, I'll let Raj help you with it. You could get in touch with Raj. You have his WhatsApp number over there. It's basically you can choose to have a diagnostics module along with it, where you take up what is called as a master automotive technician, right? So you learn how to do remaps tuning, and you also use it to basically diagnose cars as well. So if you have a workshop, you're planning to start a workshop or something, then the master technician course would basically help you with it. Samir, I'm a degree electronics student. I want to start a career in bikes modifying. I think this is the right way. Yes, Samir, like this can help you. But what I would say is don't think of just modifying bikes. It's a very small market. You have to basically look at the big picture, which is use this knowledge to first start diagnosing and working on all the MPFI bikes which are coming. All the BS6 bikes are MPFI, because that's going to bring you a lot of business, because there are not many mechanics who would know how to work with electronics. Do that, and also do modification as a side business. Don't think of doing it as a primary business, because I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm just talking from experience. You can choose which to do based on what you think the market is, right? But either ways, this course would be able to help you. Certified course for EV vehicles, yes, of course, we have. You can get in touch with Raj for this, Mohammed. We do have courses on this as well. So that brings us to the end of the questions. Let me just go back to the chats. Let me check if there is anything here. Great, super. So I hope I've been able to answer all your questions. So those of you who basically like voted for a team to get in touch, Raj will get in touch with you. And like I said, if you are confirming within the next 2 days, then I can have him, like, probably I think Raj has some discounts and offer for you as well. Another question from Mohammed Arshad Ali. Can we get a bigger turbo on diesels with proper plumbing and alterations, or normal geometric turbo to VNT? The regular FGT to VGT will not be possible, because the ECU control will not be there, but you can bolt on a bigger turbo. That happens usually with all the VAG cars. You can go for a bigger turbo, but FGT to VGT will not be possible. I have not seen a VGT conversion being successfully done, right? How can we identify if a stock ECU can be tuned or not? Easiest way is to download the vehicle list from one of the manufacturers. Go to Alien Tech website. They'll have a download section. You go there, they'll give a list of cars along with the ECU which can be tuned. So download that and keep it. Go search if your particular vehicle is there. If it is there, then basically you can theoretically tune it. Okay, so